Yo, how's it going everyone? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, I will be describing the best possible way that you can always complete the 7-day events. Now the 7-day events are these events that appear right here and they always last 7 days as the name says. But as we all know, these events are usually very hard to complete. This is simply because of one reason. When you are trying to complete this event, the currency that you get is quite low per win, and the best way that you can complete the event is usually to play for long hours, or if you're a player who spends money, usually some players end up spending money to complete them faster. But today I will be describing the best way that you can complete these events without spending any money. So let me get straight into it. The first tip that I have for you is you have to always start early. This is very important because the earlier you start playing the event, the earlier you collect those points and you get that momentum going. When you start to grind the event very late, depending on what time the event begins in your country, you might end up having to sleep and waking up the next day when the event is almost done and you're not very close to unlocking the skin you want to unlock. And that can lead you to panic in those last few hours. So my strategy is usually to start playing the event much earlier so that by morning of the next day, I'm almost getting the skin. So that when I wake up like this, I just put in the last few hours and get the skin. So it's really important to start early or else you risk missing out on the skin. That's the first tip. Moving on to tip number 2, you have to estimate how much work it takes. And this is how you do this. The first thing you have to understand about these types of events is you cannot collect the bottom rewards without collecting the rewards at the top. Each reward cannot be collected until the reward before it has been collected. So even if the last reward is showing this price of 560 tokens, you cannot actually unlock it unless you've unlocked all the ones above it. So what you need to do when you're starting out with this event is to add up all the tokens needed to unlock every single reward. And once you add up all those tokens needed, the total should be around 1,400 tokens needed. Sometimes it's more, but that is very rare. And sometimes some of the rewards can be unlocked using other currencies like crypto chips or matchboxes during sabotage. So you need to add up all those different currencies as well to get an estimate of how much work you need to put in to unlock the skin. That should give you a good idea. For example, if you are getting, let me say, 5 tokens per win, and you know that you need 1,400 tokens to get the skin. So divide 1,400 by 5, that will give you a number of matches you need to win. And that will give you the longest possible time it will take. Because since you also get tokens for making kills, you might actually end up getting more than 5 tokens in some matches. You might get 10, 15, 20 in some matches, and that will be faster. But this will give you an idea of the longest possible time that it can take you to complete the event. Another very important point that you have to know is never start playing this event without checking the missions for each day. Each day comes with a different set of missions, and these missions usually require you to use certain types of heroes. So if you don't check those missions, you might end up playing and wasting time, not getting the tokens you have to get because you're not using the required heroes. So definitely it's very important to check out the missions before you start. That's it for tip number 2. Tip number 3 is similar to tip number 2. You have to estimate how long it will take. Let us apply the previous example. If you divide the number of tokens you need by the number of tokens you're getting per match, that will give you the amount of wins you need. Calculate how long it will take you to get that number of wins. For example, each match lasts around maximum of 2 to 3 minutes. So that means in an hour, you can play a maximum of around 20 to 25 matches. Obviously, you're not going to win every match. So let's assume that of those 20 matches every hour that you can play, you're winning like 8 of them. So 8 wins per hour, we do the math and see how many hours it will take you to get the required number of tokens. That will give you an idea of how many hours you're going to spend playing, so that you don't get frustrated when it's taking so long. So that's tip number 3. It involves a bit of math, but ever since I began doing this, I have never failed to unlock any skin that I grind for. Before, when I used to grind for skins, I used to just start grinding without doing the math, and I would get so frustrated because it would take so many hours. I would end up sacrificing sleep, and sometimes I would end up missing out on the skin. So definitely doing the math is a very important thing. Moving on to tip number 4, team up with friends in your syndicate. All these 7-day events are always designed in such a way that you get more points when you play with syndicate members. You get 20% bonus points when you play with syndicate members. So that means for every match that you play with a syndicate member, you're going to be getting more tokens than you would get when you're playing solo. That's tip number 4. Make sure you team up with your syndicate members. If you don't have a syndicate, join the Bullet Echo server. There's a channel dedicated to advertising syndicates with different requirements. Tip number 5 is pretty obvious. Whether you lose or win a game, keep moving forward. Obviously, it might get frustrating, especially with the matchmaking system that is a bit brutal, for you to lose a few matches. But don't let this slow you down. Even when you lose a few matches, keep going, because it's a numbers game. If you play 10 matches, there's no way you can win more than 10 matches. The more matches you play, the more matches you will win, and the closer you get to the skin. Someone who plays 100 matches might end up winning 40 of them. And then someone who only plays 30 matches can only win 10 or even 8. So keep going, play as many matches as possible until you get the skin. And tip number 6 is quite important. You need to decide when you will take short breaks. I usually play for around an hour or 2, then I take a break of 20 minutes, then I play again, take a break of 30 minutes, because it's not good to sit in one position for so long. You get tired faster. So it's better to always take a few breaks in between to refresh your mind, take a glass of water, go outside a bit and touch some grass probably, and then come back inside and continue the grind. That's it for tip number 6. Tip number 7 is actually pretty interesting, because whenever I use this tip, I actually end up getting skins faster. So this tip number 7 is to play music while you play. Open your music app. I usually use Spotify. Turn on your music, play your best playlist, and let the music play, and then open the game and play while you listen to the music in the background. Don't check how many points you've got on the events page. Just keep playing and sing along to your music. Eventually, after 1 or 2 hours or 3 hours, you will see that you've made a lot of progress. Yeah, so I usually do that a lot. I play music while I grind. So that's it for today's tips. These are very difficult events, and regardless of how many of these tips you apply, it is still going to take you some good hours. It's going to take you at least usually between 6 to 7 hours if you're a really good grinder, and it might even take you more than 10 hours if you're one of the slow grinders. But it definitely takes quite a bit of time to unlock these skins when you are playing alone. Yeah, so that's it for today's tips. Thanks for watching as always, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.